What would happen if nobody in your city slept for 1 week? Not just you, everyone. The barista who makes your coffee, the surgeon scheduled for 7 a.m., the bus driver taking your kids to school, the police officer 3 blocks away. All of them, awake for 168 hours straight. You probably think you know the answer. People get tired. They make mistakes. They drink more coffee. But you don't know the half of it. Because sleep deprivation isn't an inconvenience, it's a weapon. And when it scales to a population, it becomes something else entirely. A social contagion. A collapse engine. A preview of how thin the line between order and chaos actually is. Let's start with you. After 24 hours without sleep, your brain is already operating at a level most people mistake for drunk. Reaction times slow by 25%. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that makes decisions and suppresses impulses, begins to check out. You don't feel that bad yet. You feel wired, actually. Your body is pumping cortisol and adrenaline to keep you upright, but the wiring is fake. Studies from the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research show that after one sleepless night, people consistently rate their own alertness far higher than objective tests show. You think you're fine. Now multiply that across a city of 1 million people. By day 2, the error rate in every system that keeps a city alive has doubled. Truck drivers misread signals, pharmacists miscount doses, air traffic controllers miss calls. A 2016 study in the journal Sleep found that moderate sleep deprivation produces cognitive impairment equivalent to a blood alcohol content of 0.05%. After 48 hours, it's 0.1%. That's legally drunk in every country on Earth. Your entire city is now operating heavy machinery, handling hazardous materials, and making financial decisions while collectively intoxicated. But the physical mistakes are just the surface. By day 3, the psychological changes begin. Sleep deprivation doesn't just slow thinking, it restructures it. The amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, becomes hyperactive. The connection between it and your prefrontal cortex weakens. You don't just feel stressed, you feel threatened. A crowded subway car becomes a trap. A neighbor's loud music becomes a provocation. A stranger's glance becomes a challenge. In 2009, researchers at UC Berkeley scanned the brains of sleep-deprived subjects while showing them neutral images. Faces that would normally register as neutral were interpreted as hostile. The brain had lost its ability to distinguish between signal and noise. Now apply that to a city. Every interaction carries a charge. Every misunderstanding escalates. The social fabric doesn't just fray, it combusts. And here's where it gets stranger. Sleep deprivation is socially contagious. In 2018, a team at the University of California, Irvine found that just knowing someone else is sleep deprived increases your own cortisol levels. You don't even have to be tired yourself. The stress of a sleepless population radiates outward. By day 4, the ambient anxiety of a city has become a physical thing you can feel in your chest. People stop making eye contact, conversations shorten, trust collapses because the brain's capacity for empathy is one of the first things sleep takes. A 2017 study in Nature Communications showed that sleep-deprived individuals were 31% less likely to help a stranger in need. Not because they chose not to, because their brains could no longer compute the other person's distress as something requiring action. By day 5, hallucinations begin. Not for everyone, but for enough. The visual cortex, starved of the REM sleep it uses to process and stabilize perception, starts generating its own input. Shadows move, patterns emerge in static, voices thread through white noise. Most people know not to trust these signals, but knowing and believing are different functions in the brain, and the part that knows is the prefrontal cortex. The part that believes is the limbic system. The prefrontal cortex is already offline, so people begin acting on hallucinations. A driver swerves to avoid a figure that isn't there. A worker shuts down a power grid because the readouts seem to be screaming. A parent locks their child in a closet because the walls appear to be breathing. This is not theoretical. In 1964, a 17-year-old named Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days as a science fair experiment. By day 5, he was hallucinating that a street sign was a person. By day 7, he couldn't perform simple arithmetic. By day 11, his speech was slurred, his memory fragmented, and his emotional regulation non-existent. He recovered, but he was one person in a controlled environment. A city is not controlled. A city is a network of interdependent systems held together by millions of individual decisions made every second. And those decisions are now being made by brains that can no longer tell the difference between a threat and a shadow. The infrastructure begins to crack. Power grids require constant monitoring and rapid adjustment. By day 6, the operators making those adjustments are operating on reflex, not reason. Water treatment plants rely on chemical testing and precise calibration. The technicians running those tests are now prone to concentration lapses that last minutes without their awareness. A 2011 report from the National Sleep Foundation found that sleep deprivation contributes to 100,000 vehicle crashes and 1,550 crash-related deaths annually in the United States alone. That's with a mostly sleeping population. Now imagine none of them slept. But the true collapse isn't mechanical. It's epistemic. By day 7, the population has lost its collective ability to agree on what is real. Memory consolidation happens during sleep. Without it, the brain cannot stabilize experience into narrative. People remember fragments, but not context. They recall events, but not sequence. A rumor spreads that the government caused the sleeplessness. Another claims it's a terrorist attack. A third says it's divine punishment. In a well-rested population, these claims would be filtered, checked, debated. In a sleepless city, they are absorbed and acted upon instantly, because the critical faculty required to doubt them has been physically dismantled. The city enters a state of shared delirium, not mass hysteria, something more precise. A collective cognitive failure, where the machinery of reason itself has been deprived of the maintenance it requires. And then there is the immune collapse. Sleep is when your body produces cytokines, the proteins that coordinate immune response. After 7 days of deprivation, your T-cell count drops, your inflammatory markers spike. Your body becomes vulnerable to infections it would normally shrug off. In a city, this means disease spreads faster than public health systems can track. The hospitals, already staffed by sleep-deprived doctors making errors at triple their normal rate, are now admitting patients for illnesses that wouldn't have existed if anyone had slept. The system chokes on a demand it cannot meet, created by a supply it cannot restore. By day 8, if the sleeplessness continues, the mortality rate begins to climb. Animal studies suggest that total sleep deprivation is fatal after approximately 2 weeks. The cause of death is not a single organ failure, it's systemic. The body loses its ability to regulate temperature, metabolism, and immune function simultaneously. In humans, the longest documented survival without sleep is Gardner's 11 days. Beyond that, the data runs out. But the trajectory is clear. A city that doesn't sleep doesn't just suffer, it unravels. Not with a bang, but with a million small decisions made by brains that no longer know what they are deciding. The question isn't whether this could happen. The question is how close we've already come. In 1965, the town of St. George, Utah, was accidentally dosed with a cloud of radioactive fallout from a nuclear test 135 miles away. The government didn't tell them. The residents slept less, worried more, and the town's health metrics deteriorated for decades. But that's a slow version. A faster version happened in 2017 when the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet experienced a series of fatal collisions. Investigations found that sailors were operating on schedules that allowed them less than 5 hours of sleep. The ships didn't fail, the humans operating them did. The systems didn't break, the cognition required to run them did. Your city sleeps every night, not because it's lazy, because sleep is the maintenance cycle of civilization. It's when the brain consolidates the rules that allow trust. It's when the body restores the capacity for patience. It's when the immune system prepares for the threats of tomorrow. Without it, the distinction between a functioning society and a failed one isn't a matter of policy or resources. It's a matter of biology, and biology doesn't negotiate. You flip your light switch off tonight. The city around you dims. Millions of people surrender consciousness simultaneously, trusting that the world will hold together until morning. That trust is not abstract. It's a physical act, repeated every night, that keeps the entire machine running. The next time you hear someone brag about sleeping 4 hours, remember what the alternative actually looks like. It doesn't look like ambition. It looks like a city where nobody can tell the difference between a shadow and a threat, between a rumor and a fact, between a stranger and an enemy. It looks like a place where the lights stay on, but nobody is home.